To be on the way. The importance of communication in Jaspers' philosophy. Existentialism, or as it is called existential philosophy, is often confused with philosophical psychology due to the importance it gives to human existence as a philosophical matter, to the extent that Jean-Paul Sartre wrote a book entitled Existential Psychoanalysis. Among the philosophers of this field, the one who studied psychiatry specifically and seriously is Karl Jaspers (1883–1969). Jaspers puts a lot of emphasis on communication. Man becomes himself only in relation to other human beings, not by mere knowledge. We are ourselves only to the degree that others are themselves, and we are free to the extent that others are free. Communication is necessary for philosophical thinking, because in philosophical discussion, there is a need for empathy so that one being can contact another being. Philosophical communication requires a dialogue that is against any kind of dogmatism, and it is only in existential communication that true dialogue emerges. In such a relationship, one must have the courage to make mistakes. A person who only wants to do the right things and show the right will never reach the threshold of action. And it will never enter the flow of communication. If I want to be real, I have to expose myself to mistakes. Jaspers considers active silence to be another requirement for existential communication, silence that is not caused by not acting, but is a sign of intense readiness of existence in itself for communication. Silence in communication makes the other person speak. Jaspers believes that people who cannot participate in silence are not worthy of direct and real communication. Jaspers makes it possible to understand deep situations such as suffering, anxiety, guilt and love in the light of the openness that silence brings. Another element that Jaspers considers to be involved in the formation of existential communication is loneliness. Communication always happens between two people who remain two people connected at the same time. Just as you cannot be yourself without communication, you cannot communicate without being alone. Jaspers believes that, firstly, loneliness is an unchangeable pole without which there is no communication, and secondly, loneliness is the lack of communication with others. If I want to choose loneliness and avoid real communication, I have actually given up my own existence and not just the other, I have also betrayed myself. But existential communication is in danger of failure like any other communication. Now, if the connection is lost, I fail and lose my true being. Wherever the relationship is broken, I am also broken. The relationship that Jaspers talks about does not appear in conventional social relationships that are accompanied by pretense and hypocrisy, because such a relationship depends on the parties not seeing each other as things, and trying to deal with each other from the bottom of their being. In his discussion about communication, Jaspers both describes and advises. In terms of description, he says, without interpersonal communication, man cannot achieve himself, he does not seek excellence, and even philosophy does not arise. And as a recommendation, by referring to the unique conditions that have arisen in contemporary history, he invites a person to a sincere communication. From Jaspers' point of view, communication is not something incidental to the essence of existence, but it is in these connections and relations that the truth of the individual is based. He even considers the consistency of philosophy dependent on relationship and relationship, because philosophy begins with the clarity of existence, and since the essence of existence is in relationship and relationship, then philosophy will also be the result of relationship. With this introduction, the meaning of Jaspers' speech, which introduces philosophy not as a rational and definitive system, but as being on the way, becomes more obvious. By understanding the relativity of all these relationships, which is the generative bed of philosophy from Jaspers' point of view, it becomes clear that it is impossible to achieve a horizon above all horizons, and as long as the expanse of time and history is wide, one should stop expecting to achieve the absolute truth. Jaspers is very similar to Kierkegaard in the discussion of existence and its analysis, especially in expressing the direction of existence towards the sublime. But in the discussion of relation and connection, he is similar to Hegel. On the one hand, he considers the origin of thoughts, conditions, and actions somehow within the soul, but on the other hand, he is of the opinion that existence and philosophical thinking are only in the text of connection, relation, and the history of realization and consistency, does not have